Everybody says, I just wish I knew what the other person was thinking. Sometimes we're talking about business, sometimes we're talking about trying to communicate with our kids, and sometimes we're talking about personal relationships. But wouldn't it be great if you actually knew what the other person was thinking? Well, my career turned once I discovered the 3 things that are in the prospect's head and how to talk to those 3 things. My name is Mark Januszewski. I'm the laziest networker in the world, and I want to show you how to make recruiting easy and fun, because if it's fun for your team, they're going to do it more often than if it's difficult. Incredible experience for both myself and my wife. We've won awards as trainers. We've been asked to speak all over the world, and we've been able to take control of our life. We've been able to go on great trips all over the world, and people say, wow, aren't they lucky? We've been able to go to ball games at Fenway Park and watch them raise the flag for a championship, see the Red Sox play out in San Francisco as well as the Patriots, and everybody says, what a lifestyle they have. Now, I'm not sharing these things with you because I want to brag about my lifestyle, and here we are in Hawaii with our 3 daughters, sailing the beautiful Nepali coast. There's the beach that we have supper on almost every night. By the way, that's Paholi State Park, and there's never more than 10 people on this 12-mile beach. But it didn't start out that way for me. I was suffering in network marketing because I didn't know what went through the prospect's head. It would be okay with you if I shared how my career turned around in an instant? Now, there's a longer version of this on the site. I'll give you the short version. I had failed in networking 5 times in the 80s, and twice with, actually they were all good companies, twice with companies I was in at the right time, with companies that went on to do over $1 billion a year, Herbalife and Nu Skin. I was with both of them at the perfect time and failed. So I decided the industry just wasn't for me. In the early 90s, something very challenging happened in my life, both good and bad at the same time. Long story short, I ended up raising 2 children by myself and simultaneously took a $50,000 cut in pay when I was delivering seafood. So I called a friend of mine who had pitched me on network marketing, and I had told him I wasn't interested. Decided to get re-involved. It seemed like the only alternative I had. Isn't that why most of us come in? And anyway, I was going to do everything I was told. I was going to work harder than I ever did before. Now, mind you, I'm working 70 to 80 hours a week delivering seafood, trying to take care of the kids, putting in 15 to 20 hours a week in networking, and I'm losing money on it. Read an ad about some guy that knew how to do network marketing, rolled change, went down to Connecticut, and listened to this guy for 15 minutes, virtually got sick to my stomach because I knew what he was talking about wasn't going to build my business. He was talking about goals and persistence, and those are the only 2 things you need. I certainly had goals, and I had persistence. I was raised in the think and grow rich mentality. I knew all about that. Walk out in the hallway and bump into a guy. He asked me if I'm okay. I break down in tears and tell him no, and told him my story of woe, didn't know how I was going to feed the kids and so forth. Anyway, he said, calm me down. He said, sit down. He said, let me ask you a question. He said, I think I can help you a little bit if you're willing to forget everything you've been taught about network marketing. And, of course, I was wide open. I was in so much pain. I said, absolutely. He said, well, let me propose a little quandary to you. He said, 2 distributors, one named Nancy, who's cashing huge checks, a great achiever, and one named Al, who's not cashing any checks at all. They enrolled under the same system. They paid the same price. The same meetings are available to them. They're marketing the same product. Their belief level is sky high. They're both putting in 15 hours a week, working the same comp plan. They have the same commitment. They're putting in the same amount of hours. They have the same upline. They live in the same city. They have the same sponsor. Why is one cashing huge checks and the other one's not cashing any checks at all? I said the magic words that changed my life. Those words were 3 little words. I don't know. He said, hallelujah, you can make money in network marketing. And he told me what the difference was between Al, who wasn't cashing any checks, and Nancy, the big achiever. It's really simple. It's skills. The only difference between Nancy and Al, if everything else is the same, and if everything else is the same between you and some people that you see breaking pin levels, the only difference between you and them is what they say and what they do. And that's what we need to learn to do, is to cover exactly what to say and exactly what to do. And in this training, we're going to talk about it from the prospect's point of view, what goes through their head. Now, this gentleman, who I never really got any information on him, led me to my friend and mentor, Tom Big Al, who is nice enough to let us tease him a little bit about being the underachiever here. But basically what I learned was this is a skill-based business, and if we're going to make some money, we're going to need to learn some skills. This skill, what goes through the prospect's head, is a monster. It doesn't matter about any of the other skills that are available for free on the site. If you don't get this one, the other ones don't come into play. So let's get real specific about this, what to do and what to say. Here's some really basic stuff. You want to build a list and continue to add to it, and whether you're using stuff online or not really doesn't matter if you don't know what to say and do. As Al taught me, if your friends and relatives didn't like what you had to say, strangers aren't going to like it any better. So let's figure out what to do and say so that no matter where you're accumulating names, you'll be much more effective with them. You need to identify the key components of the business and learn and follow a protocol. Now, I call it the 3-step plan, the recruiting cycle, and I'll explain that to you. I don't want to disrupt whatever you're doing on your team, but I think that you'll agree when you see it that all recruiting cycles fall under 3 basic categories. So just for the training, let's call it the 3-step plan. And of course, you want to leverage your upline, but this is key. You must learn what goes through the prospect's head, because once you master it, they're ready to buy and they're ready to join instantly in the snap of your fingers. Now, that doesn't mean they're ready to pull out their credit card and join your deal in 30 seconds. What it means is they're ready to buy into your next suggestion and they're ready to join you in reviewing some information. You need to master what to say, because it really is all about them. It's about what's going through their head, and if you don't know what's in their head, you're in a lot of trouble. If you know what's in their head, but you don't know how to speak to their subconscious and get them to make a decision that you'd like them to make, well, then it doesn't matter much how many people you talk to. So let's get right into this skill. You see that there's 3 basic components in our business. And again, your team may call them something else, but I think you'll find all networking, whether they're doing it in 5 categories or 8 categories, they'll generally fall under these 3 umbrellas. The 3-step plan is the recruiting cycle. We want to communicate upline and downline, and we want to build from event to event. The people that tend to do these 3 things consistently seem to grow. Now, you'll notice that the 3-step plan is on the left. Why is that? Well, because it's hard to get people to events if you don't have anybody in your group, and it's hard to communicate with your downline organizations if you don't have anybody in your group. So you have to take care of first things first. If you're brand new or don't have an organization, you want to spend 100% of your time recruiting for the first month. And then as your group grows, make sure that you try to maintain a minimum of 80% of your time inside the left-hand circle or the 3-step plan. Let's just talk a little bit about the recruiting protocol, which I like to call the 3-step plan. And again, don't want to disrupt, what your upline's teaching and so forth, but you'll find that all recruiting breaks into 3 basic portions. The first portion is we strike interest and sort. And by the way, I use simple terms like 3-step plan. I never use any jargon, because people want to be a part of something bigger, and jargon makes people think it's smaller. So always talk in a language that prospects understand. Don't be so impressed with the jargon that we learn in this industry. So step 1 is we strike interest and sort the serious from the kidding around. And of course, at step 1, we're going to book a follow-up, and you want that to be specific. You measure your success rate based on whether or not you booked a follow-up. 10 people that go to agree to look at information, none of them count if we don't have a follow-up. So make sure you learn how to book a follow-up. Step 2 is the prospect's going to review the information. Now, it could be a third-party tool like a DVD or a CD or a webcast or a hotel meeting. But the point is you can leverage these things because you can have several people reviewing information at the same time. So if you can get more people through step 1, reviewing information in less time, obviously it tips the scales of being able to collect affirmative decisions with your upline at step 3 way in your favor. Now, John Wooden taught, the more concerned I am about the things I cannot control, the less I'll do about the things I can control. We have very little control over the prospect reviewing information, and we have very little, after we give it to them, we have very little control over their decision. Now, there's a few things in some of the skills that we teach, particularly the most people skill and building instant rapport, that you can tip the scales in your favor. But what Nancy does is Nancy becomes an expert at step 1, because if she can get people to quickly agree in less than 2 minutes to review information, well, she can talk to a lot more people, whereas Al, of course, he'll spend 40, 50 minutes with somebody and not realize he's creating several problems for himself. But anyway, step 1, we strike interest. Step 2, they review information. Step 3, we get back together and collect decisions. The big money is made by people who develop a highly effective way, meaning a high conversion rate of people saying yes at step 1 in the minimum amount of time, because they can process and their team can process people much faster. Now, there's several ways to talk to what goes through the prospect's head. But if you can get on the same page with your upline, and you become, of course, the upline for your downline, you get them on this page, you'll experience incredible growth as long as you understand a couple of really simple principles. The first thing is the plan, the product, and the company have absolutely nothing to do with the prospect agreeing to look at information. I'm not saying they're not important in terms of how you feel about what you're representing, but they have nothing to do with the business of doing business, meaning they have nothing to do with the transaction and traction point. And what is that? New people agreeing to look. See, Al doesn't understand that. Nancy does. She sees it from the prospect's point of view. Al, he doesn't see it that way. And his belief cripples him because he's always talking about the plan, the product, and the company. And we'll explain to you why that turns prospects off. Here's what Nancy knows. She knows that all of us have this in common. We're born. We have experiences. Our perception of those experiences create a template that forms our own personal reality. This is why two brothers, a year apart, grew up in the same house, same parents, ate the same meals, got on the same bus, went to the same school, had the same teachers and coaches, why they're as different as day and night. They had the same experiences, but their perception of those experiences was completely different. Nancy leverages this truth. Al, he doesn't. He's impressed with the marketing plan or the ingredients in the product or how wonderful the owners are, and that's what he talks about. Nancy understands that their very first experience, how pleasant it was, how much time it took, and how much the prospect understood, that's going to create a reality in their mind that becomes their perception of what they would have to do. I think you're already starting to understand why talking to somebody for 30 minutes about ingredients or bonus money on the 83rd level is what Al's problem is. Nancy, she just wants people to agree to look at the information because she realizes if she can get it done in less than 90 seconds, they're not going to think, I don't have the time for this. It's really critical before we actually teach you the skill of what goes through the prospect's head that you understand why it works. Inside our mind, or our brain, there's two minds, both a conscious and a subconscious mind. Now, the subconscious mind makes all the decisions. It's actually pretty amazing. When you have a thought like you are right now, your conscious mind has 2,000 synaptic connections firing, but your subconscious mind has a whopping 4 million. And that the subconscious mind makes all the decisions, well, quite frankly, everybody knows that fact. Let me give you a little bit of social proof. We're driving down the road at 10 o'clock at night coming from a meeting, and we decide that we're hungry. We get off at an exit we've never been at before. And we pull down to the bottom of the ramp, and there's a parking lot with kind of a beat-up, kind of a little beat-up pavement. There's some potholes there. There's 4 lights. One of them's out. One of them's kind of dim. And there's 4 5 beat-up pickup trucks around this little restaurant. Small windows. We can't really see in. Right next to it, there's the same size parking lot, beautifully paved, 6 huge floodlights, big picture windows in the restaurant. We can see inside. There's about 50 or 60 new cars. People are laughing and enjoying themselves, having a great time. Which one of the 2 are you going to stop at? Well, everybody says the second one. When we ask audiences why, their answer is always the same. It falls 3 things. It's cleaner, it's safer, and the food's better. Reality is we have no evidence to base that decision on. The little greasy spoon-looking place, that guy could have just beat Bobby Flay in a throwdown for the best ribs, and ribs might be your favorite thing to eat, but you'll never know because your subconscious mind made that decision, believe it or not, 7 seconds before it became a conscious thought. So the subconscious mind not only makes all the decisions, it doesn't forget anything ever. When it recognizes an experience transpiring in front of it, it recalls everything that is closely related to that experience, anything that was like or similar, and that's where the decision gets made. Al doesn't really understand that, but Nancy does. Now, inside our mind are 2 filters that are running 24/7. The first filter is, given by the Creator, self-preservation, and the second one is acquired. It's a sales filter. Are they trying to sell me something? So the main thing here that we want to do is get by the sales filter and get into their curiosity factor. That's what's really important, and leverage some information that I'm going to share with you to talk to the 3 things that are in the prospect's mind. Let me prove this to you, that the subconscious makes all the decisions. So if I had to throw these words out to you, who do you think this would be? High pressure, loud, need a few more hints? No problem. If I threw out suit, smooth talker, con artist, and liar, you might think of a salesperson. Car salesperson. Now, the fabulous Davine, my wife, was a car salesperson for Honda. We drive Honda, so I'm not knocking car salespeople here. But that's kind of what comes up, a bad experience. Now, here's what's really interesting. I said guess who, not guess which occupation. A little bit of a trick with words, but fundamentally, your subconscious mind immediately started to identify occupation rather than somebody that you know. This could be an actor. It could be a character in a movie. It could be an attorney. It could be a lot of different people. But I was easily able to guide you to the response that I wanted to get because of being able to understand that the subconscious makes all the decisions, and by planting a few words in a particular places that we can kind of guide people by speaking to their subconscious. So let's show you how this applies in the business. The prospect's initial perception of how the business works is everything. Nothing else matters. Nancy gets it, Al doesn't. And shortly, you'll get it too. What are the 3 things in the prospect's mind when the business comes up? Can I make money? What do I have to do to make the money? And, of course, number 3, can I do it? If you talk about the plan, the product, or the company, like our friend Al, the sales filter is going to come up, and it's beep, 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 run, run, hide, hide. Here's why. The subconscious mind thinks of every negative experience it's ever had with a salesperson. It thinks of every negative thing it's ever heard about home-based businesses, and you're absolutely dead in the water. They're going to avoid you. Nancy knows how to get around these things and speak to these things, getting positive, positive, positive on questions 1, 2, and 3, and she knows how to do it in less than 90 seconds. let's remember the name of the skill as we start to get into it, which is what goes through the prospect's head. So the three-way call is all about them meeting the three things that are in their mind. It's about the prospect. It's about their initial perception. So what I like to do is have my upline on the phone when I do step one. So we'll use Nancy here. Nancy and her upline, John, call a prospect. And all Nancy does is introduce John. And I'm going to show you word for word how to do that. She introduces John. That's it. She's done. What's the prospect? We'll call him Harry. What's the prospect subconscious instantly recognize? What he'd have to do, which is introduce people, and he knows that he can do it. So we're already starting to get two of the three things lined up. Now let your upline do the inviting. Once you've put a simple script together that's less than 60 to 90 seconds, and use your upline until you've mastered it. It usually takes about a week or two to master it. Now, how to put a script together that'll get a 94% yes rate. Those are two more free skills just like this one. You can go to markjtrains.com and get the free skill called Most People, as well as Instant Rapport. It'll show you how to put scripts together that we get 94% of the people to say yes to look at information. So we're going to call the prospect Harry, and we're going to introduce Harry to John, and John's going to invite Harry to view some information. At step two, the prospect does that on their own, or maybe you're bringing them to a meeting. But it's a great sorting device, because if they're not going to spend 60 minutes, guess what? They're not going to put in 10 hours a week. So you might as well find that out right away. You see the value here of getting these things done at step one in less than 90 seconds on about three levels. First of all, the prospect's not going to think it's going to take them a lot of time, and it doesn't. Number two, if it takes you less time to process people at step one, you can process more people at step one than people that are spending 40 minutes before they get them information, which means you have a lot more people in the pipeline. And you're going to let your upline do step three. Why is that? Well, again, you're just going to introduce, Nancy's just going to introduce John, and she's just going to listen. Now, let's use a little common sense. Harry, our prospect, he took the call. We told him it was a business call. He stayed on the phone. He agreed to get some information. He reviewed the information. He agreed to a follow-up appointment, and he showed up for the follow-up appointment at step three. Guess what, folks? He said yes 6 times to the fact that he wants money. So the question becomes, if he said yes 6 times, I mean, I love Mark Twain, who said common sense isn't so common. It's never about the time or the money. It's only about one thing, why they don't move forward. And we'll get to that in a second. But their subconscious has said yes. They know they can make money here. They might not be sure exactly how they make it, but they know that they can make money here. And we're going to make a huge impact on them at step 3. Because what we like to say to people is this. I would say, if I was John, Nancy's upline, I would say to Harry, so Harry, what's Nancy done on this call? This is when we're there collecting the decision. And let's say Harry has 2 kids that he wants to pay for their education. I would say, so Harry, let me ask you a question. What's Nancy done on this call? And the answer is always one of 2 words, nothing or listened. Harry, is that something that you think you could do? Well, yeah, I could do that. Well, would it be okay with you if Nancy and I did for you what I'm doing for Nancy? And now what starts to happen here is you're starting to get him to understand that he already knows what to do and that he can do it. Let's give you more details about this because it's really important. 3 people. When we're talking to a prospect, we're actually speaking to 3 people. The child inside all of us, the adult, and the parent. Both on step 1 and step 3 calls. We're talking to 3 people simultaneously. Now, can I make money? That's the child part of us. You know, I want more money for a house at the beach or to go on vacation or get my wife home or to get my husband off the road. We want the child to want the money that's in the business. But the adult in every situation is going to say, well, the money sounds good, but what would the child have to do to get that money? This is why it's so important when you say, well, what's Nancy done on the call? And guess what? When they say nothing and we say to them, is that something that you think you could do? The adult is now satisfied that they know what they'd have to do. And of course, this is going to get the parent's approval because the parent realizes they've been introducing people their whole life. But there's going to be a tiny bit of skepticism. And this is how to get rid of it. Because if you don't, it sounds too good to be true is going to be something that you hear all the time. So this is what we say. What's Nancy done on the call? Well, I guess she's just listened. That's right, Harry. She's just listened. Is that something you think you could do? Well, yeah, I think I could do that. Would that be okay with you if Nancy and I did for you what I'm doing for Nancy tonight? They always say yes. Well, there's one more part of this, and it may or may not be agreeable to you. But if Nancy and I work with you and build a group underneath you, the company is going to reward us with an extra $4,000 or $5,000 a month. Do you have a problem with Nancy and I making $4,000 or $5,000 a month if we get you to $8,000 to $12,000 a month? I'm going to tell you how magical this is. They always say, no, I wouldn't have a problem with that at all, but it does something bigger. It eradicates the it sounds too good to be true, because what we never tell people is what's in it for us. And when you tell people what's in it for you, the it sounds too good to be true disappears. So stop pretending, like a lot of us do early on, that we're angels that fell from the sky with some wonder product and some wonder compensation plan that we're going to do all this stuff for them. Tell them what's in it for you, and that sounds too good to be true disappears. The parent gives his approval or her approval. The adult already knows what to do, and of course the child already wants the money. That's why they've showed up 6 different times. At each juncture they said yes. Really a piece of cake. Getting approval is really easy once you understand the details of this. The decision has nothing to do with the plan, the product, or the company. The subconscious makes the decision. Here's something that is really critical to understanding how this process works in the prospect's mind. Look at when you were 1 year old, when your kids were 1 year old, what happened? We got up, we tried to walk, we fell down, everybody laughed, we got back up, fell down, got up, fell down, people laughed, they clapped, it was no big deal. In other words, trying things and failing at them, not doing well at them, we didn't even know we were failing at it. We saw people laughing, so we kept doing it. But sometime between the 4th grade and the 10th grade, that beautiful part of us of willing to try things without worrying about what other people are thinking, it gets pruned out of us. People criticize us. They make fun of us. And the subconscious mind never forgets that pain when we lose our innocence and start worrying about what other people think about us. We hate being ridiculed. We hate being criticized. And nobody wants to join a business where they might end up being criticized or they might be embarrassed for something that they joined that didn't work out. There's a huge piece of information, and there's a very easy way to assure them that that's not going to happen without actually verbalizing it. And how do we do that? How do we communicate that? Well, Nancy's already done it. See, by using her upline, she's created a blueprint in the subconscious mind. And when we point out to them, what's Nancy done on the call, and they say nothing, it feels safe for the prospect to move forward because they know that they know how to introduce people to other people. They've been doing it their whole life. It's familiar. And when things are familiar, people feel safe around them. Their subconscious instantly understands what they'd be doing. There's no filters up. Nancy's obtained the parents' approval. Can you see why Al talking about bonus volume on level 83 and some ingredient that's in the product and giving them scientific reports, well, they don't know if they're true or not. What they do know is true is all they did in this transaction in terms of their relationship with Nancy was let Nancy introduce them to somebody, and guess what? They know that, it's familiar, and people tend to move forward with things that are familiar. It's so sad that that gets pruned out of us, that people aren't real adventurous. But why fight it? Why not take advantage of it? It's a piece of information that working this way will build your business faster. Make things as familiar as you can and as short as you can. Stay away from the jargon. All right, let's save you a lot of time and a lot of money. Everybody knows that makes big money in network marketing that the biggest lie in network marketing is you just have to find the right people. Well, we all say that when we're inexperienced, and we listen to that, and it's not a bad thing that people say that. They're really just trying to encourage people, but it doesn't have anything to do with finding the right people. Look, let me give you some proof. Everybody you know wants to pay less in taxes. Everybody you know would like more money, and everybody you know would like to have more time. If everybody wants more time, more money, and less taxes, and you're offering more time, more money, and less taxes, why do they say no? Well, if the right people are everywhere, then it really just depends on one thing, doesn't it? It depends on what we do and what we say. And if you're really not sure about that, I want you to imagine yourself going to a grocery store. Think about your local grocery store, and go get 4 or 5 bags of groceries and come to the trunk of your car. I want you to imagine a stranger walking up to you, nice-looking chap. He's got a white shirt on and a blue windbreaker, and you tell him this story. Say, hey, I hurt my back. Could you load these into the car for me? So he does. Pull out a $100 bill and try to give it to him. What do you think his reaction would be? Well, he might say, oh, that's way too much money. That's fine. Don't worry about it. He might say, hey, why don't you give it to charity? Or he might even say, hey, that's great. You got any other chores you'd like me to do? The point is, it's not going to be a difficult or awkward situation. Now, picture the same guy. Let's just rewind about 20 or 30 seconds and picture the same guy coming up to you. You got the groceries, and you tell him the same story and say, it hurt my back. He throws them in the car for you, and when he's done, you pull out a gun and you stick it in his face and grab him by the throat and say, give me all your money or I'm going to blow your brains all over the back of this car. Let me ask you a question. Do you think you'd get a different reaction from that person? It was the same person. It all depends on what you said and what you did. If you tried to give him $100 or tried to hold him up, you're going to get a completely different reaction. So the biggest lie in network marketing is you just have to find the right people. I mean, common sense would tell us that the right people are everywhere. So let's light a fire under everybody by improving at step 1 and getting into specifically what to say. If you want to make big bucks, you got to improve at step 1. You need to use proper phone etiquette. Let the prospect know someone is on the phone with you immediately. Don't have a conversation with the person and say, oh, by the way, I have my business partner on the line. Number 2 concept here, and I'm going to go over what to say exactly word for word, but you got to get the concept first, and the words will make a lot more sense. Get consent to present. So do you have 2 minutes for us? If they don't want to talk business, they'll say, no, I'm kind of busy. I always kind of laugh. Inside, of course. We never want to embarrass a prospect. If they can't talk, why did they pick up the phone? Well, obviously, they don't want to be involved in the conversation. No big deal. Okay? Then you want to introduce and edify your upline. Here's why. Even when you're making big money, people that you know won't believe that you're making big money from home. I'll tell you what they will believe. If I were to say to you, I'm really tight with Tom Cruise. I've met him several times. He's a good friend of mine. Hey, you probably wouldn't believe that. But if I told you that I work out at a gym in Amesbury, Mass., And a guy that used to be trainer for the stars and Hollywood people in California is originally from Amesbury. He moved back there, and I meet him about 3 times a week at Hard Knocks, and we kind of work out a little bit together, become kind of friendly. Anyway, one day Tom Cruise sticks his head in the door, and he says, "Hey, we're here shooting a film." And my friend that I work out with says, "Hey, is it okay if this guy Mark J comes along?" And Cruise says, "Yeah, sure." And so we go across the street, we have coffee. Hey, he's a hell of a guy. He stayed in touch with me. We text from time to time, and we've even talked on the phone 2 or 3 times a year. I can't wait for my daughter to meet him. It's going to be a big surprise for her. Which of those 2 stories are you going to believe? See, you wouldn't believe that I knew Tom Cruise, but you would believe that I know somebody that does. These 3 words in red here will make you a fortune. Promote, promote, promote. You promote your upline. Okay? Your upline promotes the tool that you want them to view. Might be a DVD or go into a meeting or a conference call or a webcast. But you promote your upline so he or she doesn't have to. They promote the tool, and together you promote your system. Why do we promote the system? Your system and training that you have is the best recruiting tool you have. Do you know why? Well, if I've done my job, you should know why. Here's why. Because the adult and the parent want to know what to do and if they can do it. And information about the plan, the product, and the company doesn't get it done. Information about what they'd be doing to work the business will get it done. So if you have a simple system that's easy to understand and follow, that's your best recruiting tool. Sorry for digressing, but that's how I've always closed people, is plugging them into the training rather than information about ingredients in the marketing plan. Anyway, promote, promote, promote. You promote your upline. Edify your upline. Don't gush over them, not subjective things like, oh, he's just so wonderful, he doesn't kick dogs. Just a couple of quick, simple facts about him, and they don't even have to be about network marketing, what you're edifying him or her about. But you promote your upline promotes the medium that you want them to view the information in, and together you promote how simple the system is. So now that you have the concept, let's give you the word for word, okay? Hi, Sally. I have my business partner on the line with me, John Smith. Do you have 2 minutes for us? Here's why this sentence is important. It's letting John know that it is a business call. We don't call people up, hi, how are you? How's your wife? How's everything going? Oh, by the way, I have my partner on the phone. They're going to feel trapped. Also, you want to use the word partner, not business associate, but partner. This is a big, big, powerful word. Hi, Sally. And again, don't hesitate. Hi, Sally. I have my business partner on the line with me, John Smith. Do you have 2 minutes for us? Yeah, sure. John is a home-based business expert. He's built a multi-million-dollar business sitting at his kitchen table, considered one of the top 5 trainers in the country. Sally, this is John. John, this is Sally. And that's it. You're done. Now, don't worry about the success in network marketing. It could be something this simple. Hi, Sally. I have my business partner on the line with me, Davine Grant. Do you have 2 minutes for us? Oh, yeah, sure. Well, Davine is extremely successful entrepreneurial type. She was the top producer at Honda North. She raised 2 children on her own, and it seems that every business venture she gets in is incredibly successful. John, this is Davine. Davine, this is John. Really simple. It doesn't matter, just 3 facts. Remember, they're going to believe that you know somebody that's successful. So just a couple of little facts about them, the credibility of the inviter. Remember, you're the introducer and your upline is the inviter. And of course, when you build a group, people are going to introduce you and you're going to be the inviter. So you're going to be in both roles. Now you're going to get some answering machines. Well, what are you going to say when they call back? Well, you need to learn and use the same invitation script that your upline is using. And the easiest way to do that is to get to markjtrains.com, and let's get the money thing out of the way right now. Everything we do, we give away for free. There's no squeeze pages. There's no upsells. There's none of that nonsense. My friend and mentor, Big Al, encouraged me when I was frustrated. He pointed out to me, hey, look it. You can't stop people from hurting themselves. I was just frustrated by people that were spending thousands buying secrets. So let me digress here for a minute. There are no secrets in our industry, folks, just a couple of things you don't know. And the fabulous Davine, my wife, said, hey, why don't we just give this stuff away like it was given to us? So you can go to markjtrains.com and you can get a couple of skills there that'll show you how to put a script together that gets better than a 90% yes rate, high conversion rate, and they're free. Okay, let's review. Everybody says the difference between Al and Nancy is skills. Everybody knows that Nancy knows what to do and what to say. What does Nancy do? Well, it's really simple. She uses the 3-step plan or the recruiting cycle, whatever vernacular you're using, to strike interest, sort, and book a follow-up at step 1. And then the prospect looks at the information, and then she gets back on the phone with her upline to collect decisions. Really simple. What does Nancy say? Well, it's really easy. Nancy says, hi, Frank, I have my business partner on the line. Do you have 2 minutes for us? And then she introduces and edifies it. Never, 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 not once, does Nancy promote the prospect. She doesn't talk about how great the prospect is. She only talks about how great her upline is. That's who we want to be the authority here. Bottom line is the successful rep like Nancy is simply going to do the things that the unsuccessful rep like the Als of the world make a conscious decision not to do. Working in tandem does a lot of great things for your business. I think what's really important is that Nancy uses the 3-step protocol. Al doesn't. She understands etiquette, making sure that the prospect knows before they have a chance to say a word that somebody's on the phone. She garners consent, introduces and promotes her upline because she understands what's going through the prospect's head. What do I have to do? Can I do it? She's going to take care of those 2 things in the first 25 to 30 seconds because they're going to realize all she did was introduce her upline, John. They know what they'd have to do. They don't know it consciously yet. We're going to draw that up to their conscious mind at the step 3 call, but they know what they'd have to do, and they know that they can do it. They've been doing it their whole life. The reason that she only introduces is that she knows and masters this particular skill, and by doing so, she's planting a blueprint subconsciously in the prospect's head. The prospect doesn't know yet that they already know what they would have to do, and obviously they're going to believe that they can do it once we point out to them that all Nancy did was what? Introduce John. Really simple. Would it be okay with you if we talked about what happens in real life? What happens in real life is when you do 3 ways with your upline, on average, you're going to connect with the person that you're trying to reach only 16% of the time, which means you're going to get some callbacks. So you need to be prepared. This is the first sentence that Nancy's going to memorize. She's going to say, I'm glad you called back, John. I only have 2 minutes, but that's all I really need. And she's going to use a script that she's put together that includes a rapport builder, meaning people will instantly trust what she had to say, and the most people skill. The most people skill, it's a lot of fun, and it'll get 94% of the people to say yes. But by telling John that she only has 2 minutes allows her to control the conversation and not get drawn into a lot of stuff. Now, John might start asking some questions, and so here's the perfect answer, okay? John, it would take me 2 hours to explain to you what I'm so excited about, and then you'd still want to listen to this material anyway, or you'd still want to see it, whatever it happens to be. This is key. This is how Nancy closes out the question and answer period before it gets started. She says, what would be easier for you, John, to set an appointment where we can talk for 2.5 to 3 hours and then get you the information, or just get you the information? It's so strong. So the way it would go is John asks a question, well, what's this all about? John, it would take me 2 hours. Like I said, I only have 2 minutes. It would take me about 2.5 hours to explain it, and then you'd still want to see this information. Well, so tell me this, John. What would be easier for you? To set a time when we can talk for 2.5 to 3 hours, or just to drop off this little 30-minute DVD? He's always going to go for the option that Nancy wants. Piece of cake. So what is it that all top earners do to become top earners? It's not really a secret, but it seems so simple that most people overlook it. You know, some are great speakers, some aren't. Some are great closers. Some top earners aren't great closers. Some are great presenters. Some are terrible presenters. But they all have one thing in common. They all cheat. How do they cheat? They get this part, that initial contact part, down so it comes out like their name. PPPPP stands for Perfect Practice Prevents Poor Performance. And that's what they have in common. They practice. Failure to practice is failing to duplicate a profitable action. And failure to duplicate a profitable action prevents success. If you bring some new reps into the business, they're going to introduce you, and you're going to be the inviter. Okay? So you want to listen to what your newer people are saying. Go over the little script that you create with them, because we all play in real life like we practice. This formula of 25-2-25, it's huge. It means that you're going to read the script that you create for 25 times, and then take a 2-minute break, and then read it 25 times as fast as you possibly can. No matter how many mistakes you make, you just keep reading. If you do it while standing in front of a mirror and a paper in your hand, after those 50 run-throughs, especially the second one, you might make dozens and dozens of mistakes. Don't back up. Just keep going over the same thing. When you do, that thing will come out like your name. You need to learn how to invite without mentioning the plan, the product, or the company. Now, we're not trying to be clandestine about it. We're not trying to hide it. Now, when I first started working the system with a few people, they were very skeptical. But better than 94% of the people said yes. And what was really stunning was we go sometimes 3, 4, 5 weeks. We've gone as long as 9 weeks without anybody even asking us the name of the company. Because once you learn the secret language of the prospect and you leverage the most people skill and the instant rapport skill, they're saying yes within the first 15 seconds to getting the information. So why get into all that? Let the tool do the work for you. Your job is to raise their curiosity. So failure to prevent a profitable action prevents success. What's the one action that all top earners have in common? They're prepared. They're well practiced at bringing the business up and getting people to agree to look at information in a very short period of time. Never, under any circumstances, promote the prospect. I know it's on here a second time, but it's a pet peeve of mine. Don't get on the phone and introduce your partner and then tell them how great the prospect is. Okay? Just don't do it. Let me give you a 20-year case study in response to this training by Al K. and Nancy D. Okay? Al K., or the know-it-all, big ego guy. I can do it myself. I know how to invite people. Nobody can do the marketing plan like I can. I can explain this better than my upline. I saw that 3-step plan training thing. I don't need that. Oh, I want to talk to this person before I put you on the call. And Al, of course, doesn't grow, and he's going to blame. And as long as we're in a blame mode, well, we can't make any changes because we don't look at ourselves. But Nancy D., who I like to call Nancy Discover It All, she practices knowing that she's going to become the inviter. She understands that the subconscious makes all the decisions. She buys into this premise, and she builds her scripts around the information that she got here. She role plays with her new reps so they're prepared for callbacks, and that's why Nancy grows and Al doesn't. The benefits of working with your upline are just incredible. You're going to have professionals helping you that have a vested interest in your success, so there's no pressure on you. This is crucial. When Nancy calls Harry, she's pretty new in the business, okay? We understand that. What the prospect is seeing, there's no pressure on Nancy. All she did was introduce him to John. So he's going to know what? Subconsciously. Well, there's not going to be pressure on me. This speaks to the prospect's subconscious. Our courage rises. Let's face it, we were told even back when we were kids, hold hands when crossing the street, the buddy system when we're in the Boy Scouts. Courage goes up when we work in teams. Well, I think what's really important is to see how I did. So I'm going to give you a little two-part quiz. It'll only take 5 seconds here. And if you get both of these right, then I did my job. Okay, so when Al calls Joanne by himself, what does Joanne think that she has to do to build the business? Well, Joanne thinks she's got to pick the whole business up and put it on her shoulders. She thinks that she has to work alone. I'm sure you got that one. Here's the second one. This one's kind of fun, too. Okay? When Nancy calls Ted with her upline Mary and introduces Mary to Ted, what does Ted think he has to do to be successful? Well, obviously, if I did my job, you got that too. Ted knows, all I have to do is call my friends and people that I know and introduce them to Mary and introduce them to Nancy. I hope you got them both right, because it means I did my job. Now, Nancy's group is going to explode because she understands the difference between getting checks and earning checks. And if you've been through some of our trainings before in skills, you really know about this little symbol. But in case you haven't, if you remember when a little kid, when it's time for them to start tying their own shoes, we have them hold one string perpendicular to the floor, and of course you tie the bow around it. And in a few days, the kid reaches over and he tries to tie it himself, and he doesn't do too good the first time, and you have to tighten it up, or the second time or the third time. But eventually, he's tying an okay bow on his shoe, and then usually within a week or two, it's fine. And guess who's not tying his shoes anymore? You. So the difference between getting checks, we get checks when people enroll, but we actually earn those checks by teaching others what to do so they can do it without us. This is a teaching business, so we have to keep learning. Wooden taught. It's what I learned after I know it all that makes a difference. And the bottom line is, this business is a skill-based business, and you can't teach what you don't know. It doesn't matter how great your plan, your product, your company, your founders, the meeting, and your upline are. If you don't know how to teach people how to get a yes 80 to 90% of the time, they're going to quickly cower away from the recruiting cycle, and that's where everything starts. So make sure you leverage this site and get those 2 additional skills. We have lots of free skills up for you, because you can't teach what you don't know, and that's really the point of the business, is teaching people what to do so they can be effective without you. That, in essence, defines duplication. Let's talk about what happens in real life. Most people look at this and they think, gee, that seems a little slower. But everybody that tries it says, wow, it's really faster. It's a little slower starting, but it grows much faster in the long run because we're in the business of duplication. It builds teams, it creates community, flat out works, and it duplicates, and that's really the business we're in. We've built large organizations of 10,000 plus that are active with no upline. And we took turns being the introducer and inviter. You know, people that I brought in, I was just getting started with a company. I hadn't earned any checks, and the first person I sponsored hadn't earned any checks, so sometimes he'd introduce me to people, and I'd invite them. I'd introduce them to my warrant market, and he'd invite them. We took turns, but the main thing is we built our business on these simple skills. If we're going to make some money, we got to learn some skills. Everybody knows this is a skill-based business. Well, Nancy's next step is pretty obvious. She'll build a massive list through warm market, cold market, whatever she's comfortable with, and she'll get in touch with her upline and people in her downline, and she'll schedule a bunch of 3-ways using the information that she learned here. She'll also review this training several times. That's what winners do. See, Nancy learns, while Al doesn't, the skill entitled What Goes Through the Prospect's Head. My experience has taught me that there's only two types of reps in network marketing. The type that duplicate profitable actions and the type that refuse to duplicate profitable actions because they want to do it their way. You just have to let your upline know which group you see yourself in. Everybody that sees this training says the same thing. Well, now I know what to do. I get what goes through the prospect's head, but when I'm the inviter, what do I actually say? How do I put that skill together? Well, again, there's two more free skills available if you'll click the link here down at the bottom of the page, instant rapport, so you can get people to instantly trust you, actually make them bring the business up. They'll believe what you tell them, and more importantly, they'll trust the material that you give them with this little instant rapport skill, which is only 3 sentences will have people instantly trusting you. And the most people skill, well, most people that learn the most people skill make the most money, but some of them don't. The ones that don't just refuse to get this skill absolutely free. You'll get 94% of the people to say yes to looking at your business, to booking a follow-up, and to joining your business.